So tell me all about the Grafton Monster. What was your process?
Yeah. So, do you know the origin story at all for the Grafton Monster?
Vaguely.
Very vaguely.
Least of all of the cryptids.
That's okay. Well, he doesn't seem to be very well known, which is why I was excited to try to build one because I hadn't seen it attempted before. So, Grafton Monster just has 40th anniversary of his spotting this past year. And so in 1964, there was a newspaper reporter who was going home after a long day at work in the Grafton area, and he saw this large gray seal-like creature creep across the road in front of him. And then there were supposedly a couple other individuals who, not too long after, had seen this large gray creature in the woodlands and whatnot. So, of course, this version is based largely off of the Fallout 76 version. And he was constructed, so he's a hollow creature suit. So his endoskeleton is EVA foam cut into strips. So it literally looks like a wire mesh design that you would see somebody use on a CAD program, just built in real life. Mm-hmm. And then over top of that is cushion foam. So just basically seat cushions, that type of material. So everything I bought was available at Walmart.
Oh, wow.
And because this is my first build of this nature, I actually wasn't sure what to use for skin. So his skin is actually the packing material that you put in between plates when you ship glass, also available at Walmart.
Oh.
So occasionally you'll see little perforation lines. That's from where it comes off the roll.
That's really smart. No, I love that.
And then a lot of painting, largely spray paint, and then airbrush for details, hot glue for veining and stuff like that. And I have about 500 hours in it. Which I hope is, I hope is all. And I actually have a very small house. I have no basement. I have no workshop. So this was built on my rear deck. I have a covered deck.
That's incredible. So what got you into doing this? Or have you always been creative?
Well, I've always been insane, but I love Halloween. And so this is like, to me, that was credit to my girlfriend who, when we first got together, she goes, you invest so much time in Halloween. She's like, you realize that you could dress up or create things for year-round use. And I was like, well, how's that? She said, well, have you ever gone to a con? And I hadn't. And it was only like 9 years ago. So just going in the con circuit, if you will, you get a lot of inspiration there. And I always like to pick out the thing, because I also did the giant hermit crab from Fallout 2. I always look for something like...
Oh, you did it? Oh my God!
Yeah, it's full scale.
That's amazing.
It's obnoxious. Everything I build is now obnoxious. So, but I always look for something that somebody has not attempted, and then try to build something like that. So, by coincidence, I had reached out. Well, I saw on Facebook that they were starting a Grafton Monster Festival. Grafton from here is about maybe 40 miles away. So I just reached out and said, I know this is a weird coincidence, but I've been building a Grafton Monster on my back deck for like the past 6 months. Would you be interested in having a monster? And they're like, yeah, we need a monster, because they were just going to use like a plywood cutout. So I became the de facto Grafton Monster for the festival.
I love that.
So I just got it done in about 11 months or so, right before the festival. Actually, the feet weren't even done. I did the feet after the festival to get ready for Dragon Con. So now he made 11 appearances in West Virginia last year, including a Mothman, and then he's supposed to be in the Memorial Day Parade for Grafton this year, and also, of course, the Grafton Monster Festival, which is the weekend of Father's Day. Each year annually. So
wonderful.
That's
thank you
his
for that
origin
information.
story.
And can I ask one more question?
Of course.
How, and it might be a long one, how would you recommend, if somebody wanted to get into this space, how do you recommend they start, and what resources do you recommend for
with
them?
this type of a build? I'll tell you what was indispensable was actually my girlfriend had gotten me a subscription to Stan Winston School of Arts, School of Character Arts. So I had free online curriculum, well, free because she bought me the certificate, for I think 1 calendar year. And they actually had a 4 or 5 part series on how to create a creature suit. So that was extremely valuable, or else I would have wasted probably a lot of material and a lot of time if I hadn't had access to that. So that was very helpful.
Okay.
But the good news is, it can be done, I guess pretty economically if you're willing to invest the manpower. But it's probably, I think I added up, just the adhesive is about $200 altogether. There's a lot of glue in there. But probably the bill was $500 I'll say, in 500 hours.
Wow. Wow, thank you, Greg. I appreciate your info, and
Thing.
it's already going.
All right.
So
Spot and all that.
So one of the things that surprises people too is, what is a guy in my profession, because I'm a professor, why am I running around dressed as a monster? But you'd have to go back to, I used to want to be a medical illustrator, so I was always drawing when I was a kid, and like to draw things of kind of a science or sci-fi kind of nature. And then that evolved into my being a physical therapist and exercise physiologist and whatnot. But I found that when I go to build these things, understanding joint and line of pull, line of gravity, all those things I teach my students and learn in physical therapy school comes in really handy when you want to articulate a monster and get it to move in a believable fashion. And you can't see his posterior, but one of my research interests is scoliosis, and so I gave the creature scoliosis too, so he has a nice curvy exposed spine in the back that kind of symbolizes one of my research interests.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really
And then
great.
because I am an aerobe and need oxygen, I later installed a breathing hole and also a hole where I can accept fluids and stay hydrated, because it's about 120 degrees in there. And we were talking about maybe doing some research with cosplayers just to determine kind of like sweat loss rate and dehydration concerns and internal temperatures of a lot of our suits, because college mascots are among the most injured people at college athletic events because of the heat and the lack of eyesight. And you think about, a lot of times those people come from an athletic background. They might have a gymnastics background or something. So if you take people who maybe aren't as athletic, who now you obstruct their vision, now you put them in a 120 degree suit, like what's that begin to look like, and what are the health concerns there potentially?
Yeah, those are all great considerations, I think.
Bum 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 do it 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 bum bum bum.
Okay.
And I smoke. So I'm a
Imagine Texas is kind of like Christmas.
All right, so let's talk about the Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah.
How did you create this?
Haha.
What was your process? And I love him.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So he was inspired by a beer label, actually. So there's a Braxy Blonde Ale made by Greenbrier Brewing, I think it is. And so I don't know who the artist was, but whenever I saw the logo for the beer, I like beer, but when I saw the logo for the beer, I thought, oh, what a fun interpretation of the Flatwoods Monster. So just decided to try to bring it to life in 3 dimensions. And he's, I don't want to say that I cheat, but I do use modern materials even in my Fasnacht stuff. So he's made out of EVA, foam. Actually, this is all gym flooring that I either got at Walmart. Some of it I actually bought used. So that's why it's multicolored, is I was just using kind of small pieces to build him up. And then he's covered in foam clay. And then I tried something that I hadn't tried before, and that was, a lot of times with foam clay, it doesn't really hold shape well. You can't put detail in it. You have to go back and like grind it in, dribble it in or whatever. But after I put down the initial shapes, then I took a skim layer, just like 1/8 of an inch thick, and I pressed, it was a silicone trivet to grab pots and pans, but it had this, had this pattern in it that I was like, well, that could look like scales. And so that's what gave him a scaly appearance. And then his eyeballs are snapped together Christmas ornaments.
Oh.
And yeah, the pupils were completely a last minute kind of thing, because when I put it on, it fogged up and I couldn't see. So I was like, well, I guess if I drill pupils in, then maybe it'll actually add to the add to the depth of his eyes. But it's functional too, because I can see out of them, and it also lets moisture out.
That's great.
So that's how he came to be.
I love that. And I don't think I asked you this downstairs, but can you take me back to your first mask or a very complex cosplay that you ever did?
Oh yeah, geez Louise. So, well, I've been kind of a Halloween fanatic my whole life. So thanks to my dad for like instilling the joy of Halloween in me. But I guess I started playing with prosthetics and stuff maybe as long ago as college, which for me was a long time ago, because I am 52. But in terms of the bigger scale stuff, I started that during the pandemic. As a college professor, teaching classes remotely there for quite a while, a couple semesters, really had a lot of time on my hands, and picked up some new skills. For my birthday, I think it was, my girlfriend had gotten me a bucket of clay and an airbrush, and I'd never worked with either before. And I said, what am I supposed to do with this? And she said, well, you'll figure it out. And eventually I kind of figured it out. When it came to it, there was a project where I'm like, well, I need to sculpt something, and I need to be able to gradate the colors just right, and so learned how to airbrush. So most of the stuff I've learned from just self-taught, or thank goodness for YouTube tutorials, when in a pinch. So that's mainly when I started doing all this. I'd say, I guess around 2020 or so. And now I've built, he's actually one of my smaller heads. Some of them are, one's about 3 feet wide.
So what was your first one that you built in 2020?
Oh gosh, what was the very first thing that I built? Well, there you go. Turn lemons into lemonade, right? So my first mask was a failure, Not in that the sculpt didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I couldn't get it displaced from the mannequin head that I built it over.
Oh, no.
It kind of fused, the clay I used fused to it. So now it's a mannequin head. Like I use it as a prop or decor, but it's not wearable. So my first mask, it was a success visually, but a failure in terms of it's not a functional mask. I'd have to think about what did I build.
What was the mask that stuck?
It was kind of what do I want to say? Kind of a punk themed Frankenstein monster.
Oh, cool.
But my favorite color is teal, and I have an old teal automobile, so I did it kind of in the same color scheme as my car, thinking he could be like a mascot for the car or something like that. My car is also called Frankenstein, so I got it's probably some sort of little fixation there. But in the time since I've built giant hermit crab, a creature suit that you saw, the Grafton Monster. I built a Papa Legba of
cool.
voodoo lore.
Yeah.
Oh, so that rang a bell?
Like that, yeah.
I just thought it would be a lot of fun. I saw it in a Volbeat video, and Volbeat had a cartoon rendition. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Purple face, green flowing dreadlocks, and a blue top hat. And I'm like, well, that'd be different. I was invited a few years ago for we have a strawberry festival locally, and someone said, "Do you think that you could make a creepy strawberry?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm your guy."
On your card.
I was like, "I'm your guy." So we did a creepy strawberry, and he's been featured in our parade now a couple years. Nefarious Strawberrius, and so anyway, that's a handful of some of the ones I've made over the years. Maybe my favorite's one that I produced very spur of the moment last year, in that a friend did a great tattoo for me of some poster art from Return of the Living Dead 2, and it's basically a cloud that appears or a skull that appears in the clouds. But I'd never seen anybody make a mask of it, and I was getting ready to go to a mask festival, and so that was a labor of love. But started with stuff I just had lying around, like a bicycle helmet and chicken wire and spray insulation foam, and sculpted it into this big thing, and he was really well received. I was really happy because it was one of the cheapest things I ever made, one of the fastest things I ever made, and it's something that like you just had never seen represented in 3 dimensions before, since it's just usually on a poster. So that was a lot of fun.
Did I already ask you what's next downstairs? I can't remember.
Did you ask me what's next? Do I know what's next? Well, I thought I knew what was next. I thought I was going to do the Blue Devil. But we already have someone in our group that's done a great Blue Devil. She's just putting the finishing touch, and you just got that interview.
Glowing Jackalope.
So yeah. So I'll tell you what, there is a great artist, and he does a lot of cryptid stuff. His name is Erie Eric, up in Erie, Pennsylvania, and he has done a series of little sketches of trolls. And one of his trolls just really caught my eye, and I asked him if he would be okay with my trying to make a mask representing that troll, and he greenlit that, and so that might be the next one I do.
Cool.
That'll be a little different.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think anybody who is following you will be looking forward to it. You and Christie's, because you guys are making the cool stuff. So yeah.
Well, I like to think we feed off of each other's insanity.
All right. Well, thanks, Greg, again for your time.
No, thank you.